Hello, this is Erin with the Joy in Pens and Paper, and this is the 33rd Three Inks Thursday. I try very hard not to time anchor these videos so that people can watch them whenever they want and not be brought to a specific point in time. However, this particular Three Inks Thursday is my first one that falls on Thanksgiving. So I am going to call this one the Thankful Edition. I've selected three inks from my collection that I am very grateful for having, and I will talk a little bit about why I have that gratitude. In a Three Inks video, the purpose or intention of that video is to swatch three inks on three different papers and then use three different writing tools so that we can all appreciate and enjoy the ink properties for those inks. I do tend to do kind of a color family, although this one was more a chromo shading family, but this one will end up being a color family, but not in the kind of traditional sense of how I set it up. So from the start, I will say all three of the inks that I selected are in the gray family. I love gray inks. I have spent probably the last 2 years exploring, maybe 3 years, exploring a lot of different colors of inks, and that has built up my collection specifically in the form of samples, but I also have been gifted inks that are not gray, and I love that so much. However, if I could write with a gray ink every single day, I would be very happy with a secondary color family of a murkyish brown sepia tan with a little greenish tint. All of those murky colors that are found in nature would be my follow-up. So, all right, without further ado, the first ink that I'm going to swatch, and this one actually does, not sure if anyone can see it, but it's got dust on it because I've had this for so long. But this is the Jacques Herbin 1670 in Stormy Gray. And when I got really reacquainted with fountain pen inks and wanted to level up from a Pilot Metropolitan with a ink cartridge to actually filling my own pens and having ink bottles. This was the first ink bottle that I purchased. And at that time, I was watching YouTube videos. So this was probably, gosh, maybe 8 years ago. And this is one that was quite prevalent in the YouTube sphere. Because it had shimmer. And I don't know this for a fact, but I think at that point shimmer was still relatively new. So this is a dark gray ink. Borders on black. And then it has this beautiful gold shimmer that will come through as it dries. Now for writing tools, I do have 3 TWSBI Go's in fine, medium, and stub. So I will just be doing a small writing sample to the side here. I'm not going to re-agitate the bottle, so that is what it is. I'm going to try not to show up to Thanksgiving with ink all over my fingers, but I guess it is what it is. Jacques Herbin 1670. Now this notebook is quite chunky and I'm towards the end of it. Just to show, look at that. So it's a little difficult to write in that crease, but I will get it done. Now I had this inked up in, which actually now that I think about it, it was a a good pairing for a couple of reasons. So I primarily had this inked up in a Stormtrooper, white and black, Pilot Vanishing Point. And so I'm just having that moment of, oh, it's called Stormy Gray, and I inked it up in a Stormtrooper pen. If you hear crinkling of the paper and you like that sound and you find it's a little therapeutic, calming ASMR-y, you're welcome. If you don't like that sound, I apologize. All right, so that is the Jacques Herbin Stormy Gray. Now I've used probably about a third of this bottle. All right, the next bottle that I will highlight is Pilot Iroshizuku Kirisami. Now this particular color of ink has recently been discontinued. I have very much so contemplated getting another bottle just so that I have a backup. However, similar to Stormy Gray, I've used about a third of it. So when I think about the other grays that I have in my collection, I think this one has served me well, and it will still probably take me years before I finish it. So if I don't get a second bottle, I feel confident things will be fine. So compared to Kirisami, this looks black. The Stormy Gray looks black. Whoopsies, I grabbed the wrong pen. I ordered them differently off to the side, which I don't know why I did that. Okay. So Pilot Iroshizuku. I was hoping with the new Pilot inks that were just recently announced that they would have another gray or a really good brown. They did have kind of a burgundy brown that behaved differently on different papers that I considered getting, but at this point I'm not inclined to purchase more ink because I have a good collection, but maybe someday. Beautiful. So that's Pilot Iroshizuku Kirisami. When I did take a break from Stormy Gray in my Pilot Vanishing Point Stormtrooper, I often would ink up the Vanishing Point with Pilot Iroshizuku Kirisami. All right, and then the next up is Pelikan Edelstein Moonstone. So this was the, I think, 2021 or 2020, something around there, ink of the year. I should know that, right? But I don't. And I remember thinking, gosh, that's a beautiful ink. And then for Christmas of 2022, so this must be 2021 or 2020. For Christmas 2022, my husband gifted me my first Pelikan pen, and it was the M400 in white tortoiseshell, still a pen that I use almost every single day. And this is the ink that he purchased to go with it. And in that year, he did purchase a few other inks for me as well. One was Ackerman. It was a green. And another was Robert Oster Honeybee, which is a yellowish brown. I think those were the 3 inks that I got that year. But Moonstone was just such a beautiful gray, and it has really, really nice, pretty close to shading properties. I actually recently was introducing a student to my fountain pens and showing him about them, and talked with him about how this particular ink looks like pencil. And I do think that's part of why I like gray inks, because I do like writing in pencil, but I get frustrated with the lack of consistency based on the positioning of the lead. So having a pen that writes like a pencil for whatever reason works for me. Beautiful. Okay. And I'm just realizing this is a lovely range of warm, cool, and then nearly black, or almost black, or very dark. All right, so looking at these samples, I'm just going to pick this up and move it around a little bit. So with the Stormy Gray, as I move it, you can see the shimmer, the little gold flakes. So it's beautiful. On the bank paper, it looks darker than on Cosmo Air Light and Tomoe River. But on the Tomoe River paper, you're getting a little bit of that color variation right here in the less saturated spot, but this is why I really love this ink, is there are times where it can look very black and other times where it's very clearly a gray. And this section right here is what highlights that for me. I do like this ink in particular as a shimmer ink, as it does work well in an extra fine nib. It does not clog, or in my experience, it did not clog in a Pilot extra fine vanishing point nib unit. So that's very impressive. And I often find myself thinking I should get some of the other inks in the Jacques Herbin 1670 collection because they're so well behaved. Pilot Iroshizuku is a really lovely, warm, pinky gray. Across the 3 papers, it's leaning a little bit more gray on the Cosmo Air Light paper, and you're getting a bit more of the pink on the Bank and the Tomoe River paper. And there are times that as this ink dries down, it appears to get darker. And so there are times where I've looked at Kurisami as a black alternative. In this particular writing sample and this array right now, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a lot of the gray, but there are times where, like I said, I've flipped back through and thought that this was a black ink. Pelkan Edelstein Moonstone is a little bit of a cooler gray, and I really love, got the little fingerprint here, which that happens. But on the bank paper, you're seeing a little bit of haloing around the edging. The Cosmo Air Light, you've got this really lovely area right here of saturation and kind of how that plays out with the ink. And then it's this beautiful kind of consistent color on the Tomoe River. In the writing sample, again, this is where I see, or I feel like this looks a lot like a pencil. And it just brings me a lot of joy. So these are the 3 inks that I am so thankful to have in my collection this year. It'll be interesting as I keep this series going. Obviously, Thanksgiving falls on a Thursday for those of us that celebrate Thanksgiving. And so in a year, I will be doing another 3 inks video, and I'll be intrigued to see what inks I am thankful for at that time, if there's been any shift or even any additions. It may not be that my level of gratitude diminishes for these 3 inks, but it might be that my level of gratitude is similar for other inks. So, with that, thank you so much. I appreciate that you have spent time with me watching this video. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.